Good day, and thank you for joining us. My name is Kay Carney Fillmore, and I am a proud member of Aquarium of the Bay. And I'm also a member of the San Francisco chapter of Lynx, where I serve as chapter president.
Welcome. I'm Angelique Tompkins, a proud board member of Bay.org and also member of the San Francisco chapter of the Lynx, where I serve as the co-chair for Health and Human Services.
The Aquarium of the Bay is excited to celebrate our third annual community engagement event happening throughout this month to acknowledge and celebrate Black History Month. SANKOFA Days at the Bay features a wonderful blend of on-demand virtual events and activities focused on climate change, the environment, and environmental justice and sustainability that will appeal to children, millennials, seniors, and everyone in between. We celebrate notable African American heroes and leaders in the environmental space. Aquarium of the Bay partners with the Northern California Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Foundation and the San Francisco chapter of the Lynx Incorporated to ensure that the events are engaging, educational, inclusive, and celebratory of the richness of the African diaspora. The San Francisco chapter of Lynx Incorporated is part of an international African American professional women's association linked in friendship and service. We have been serving our community since our founding 70 years ago, delivering on the promise and the mission of the Lynx organization, which is to enrich and sustain African American communities and people of African ancestry. Our work is also to increase awareness and engagement for our communities in environmental spaces where we haven't previously had a prominent role. NorCal MLK Foundation is also dedicated to extending Dr. King's vision by fostering a new paradigm that unlocks the promise in every person through ongoing and targeted social, economic, and environmental justice initiatives throughout the San Francisco Bay Area and the Northern California region to promote the joys of learning. And now, I'll turn it over to naturalist Hunter and Noelle. Take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. So today you're looking at two of our four otters that call this aquarium home. Today we have Shasta and Baxter out here with us. Baxter is the younger of the two. He's actually going to be celebrating a birthday soon. And he'll be turning 8 years old. And then Shasta, who just ran away, of course, is our oldest otter here. And he'll actually be celebrating his 11th birthday this year. Baxter has a twin brother whose name is Ryer. And Ryer is behind the scenes today. We like to switch up who comes out on exhibit every day so that they get an opportunity to hang out with different friends, see different things, as well as get some quiet time behind the scenes. And then Ryer is actually spending the day today with our fourth otter, Tahoe. And Tahoe is our youngest boy here. He'll be celebrating his fifth birthday coming up soon as well. So 3 out of the 4 boys that do call this aquarium home actually came from our neighboring facility, the Oakland Zoo. So we have 3 Bay Area locals in our care, which is great. And then Shasta here, who is, like I said, the oldest one of our group here. You can tell him, because he's moving a little bit slower, still very quick, but just a little slower. Shasta actually came to us from Louisiana. He found himself in a little bit of a sticky situation down there, and so we were very lucky to be able to bring him here and give him a forever home. And he's definitely, even though he's not from the Bay Area, is definitely enjoying our weather here and a chance to hang out with his other, we call them all brothers, but our other boys that call this aquarium home. So our river otters here are actually a local species that can be found in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they're actually mostly a freshwater species. You will see them sometimes swimming in the brackish water, that kind of where the salt and freshwater mix. But because they live in freshwater, they're going to be eating mostly freshwater fishes. So things like trout and smelts, different kinds of crustaceans. Here at the aquarium, we try and stick fairly true to their natural diet. So we feed them a lot of freshwater fish, as well as a couple things that you might not think a river otter might eat. These guys are very opportunistic and definitely carnivores. So they'll actually do things like catch small rodents if they can, or even small birds. They'll even climb trees to get eggs every once in a while. So we do feed those types of things as well, kind of to give them a well-balanced diet. And we do also give them fruits and veggies. Like I said, a well-balanced diet is what we're going for here. All righty.
If anybody has any questions at any point, feel free to put those in the chat and we will get to those as they come up.
So here at the aquarium, I know that Baxter is doing a lot of swimming right now, but as well as the swimming and running around that they do, we do have a training and enrichment program with them here. One of the other trainers, Jill, it looks like, is actually just getting ready to take them off exhibit for the day. And so these guys know exactly the drill. You guys will actually get to see our super awesome otter tunnel. It actually connects the exhibit to their behind the scenes area. So Baxter and Shasta here are about to go join their friends Ryder and Tahoe behind the scenes for the night. Like I said, you can tell they know the drill. They do this every day. But this whistle that you're about to hear Jill blow is actually part of our training program. All the training that we do here is what's called positive reinforcement training. So they are training on a daily basis to perform what we call husbandry behaviors, basically behaviors that allow us to do simple medical checkups on these guys on a daily basis, as well as on a voluntary basis. Their healthcare is definitely our top priority here, so we want to make sure that we can do as much with our otters as possible without having to put them, but also ourselves, through any unnecessary stress. So being able to do something just as simple as get them to move on and off exhibit without having to, corral them or purge them off exhibit is very less stressful for us, but also for them. I'm sure you saw they move fairly quickly. So if we had to go in and catch otters every day, it would just be exhausting. Doesn't sound like much fun.
And now, are these species endangered? I know some others are.
That's a great question. So the North American river otter is actually one of the only species, is actually the only species of otter that is not considered threatened or endangered. These guys actually have a great story of conservation, or conservation done well. These guys were actually almost hunted to extinction for their fur. They have one of the densest coats in all of the animal kingdom, so very, very soft fur. And during the height of fur fashion, if you could get an otter pelt, it would be really nice. So like I said, hunted almost to extinction, but conservation measures were actually put in place. And so right now we're actually seeing a lot of this local species rebounding, which is great. These guys are kind of like the canary in the coal mine, in the sense that they're a great indicator species for how the environment is doing. So if you see river otters in your local areas, it's a great sign that those waterways are really, really healthy. These guys can eat about 20% of their body weight every single day, so quite a bit of food. And so if there's no fish for them to eat, they're not going to stick around. So the waterways aren't healthy. They're going to peace out. They're going to go find another area that's a lot cleaner water, a lot more fish, to maintain that big diet, big appetite that they do have.
And how long do they live?
That's another great question. So in the wild, it's about 12 to 15 years is their average lifespan. But in captivity, we can provide the best possible healthcare for them. Like I said, all the training that we do with them on a daily basis is geared towards just being able to make sure that they're healthy. So their average lifespan is actually more 15 to 20 years, so quite a bit longer, and they are fairly long-lived.
Beautiful. Well, let us know if you guys have any other questions. At this point, we're going to let Noelle say goodbye. And Noelle, thank you so much for taking the time
Thank you guys
to be with
for
us today.
joining.
We really appreciate the great work that Noelle does here. And yes, let's see, those are all North American river otters as well. So with that, thank you so much again, Noelle.
No
and we will
problem.
see
Enjoy the
you
rest of
all
your tour,
next
guys.
time. Absolutely. And we will continue on the tour. Thank you so much again, Noelle. And I'm just gonna gather a little bit of the equipment to make the journey down to the first floor of the aquarium. where we have some other cool exhibits to show you guys as well. Now, you guys might ask yourself, now, what are river otters doing in the aquarium where normally you'd see fish or sharks? And that's a great question, because river otters, like Noelle mentioned, are an indicator species. They're really good representation of the ecosystem health of an area. So if you're seeing a lot of river otters like we are now in the North Bay, where there's a lot of rivers and there's a lot of freshwater systems up there, that's a really good indication that the ecosystem is making a comeback, or at least trying to make a comeback. And that might take some time, depending on how extensive any damage in that ecosystem might have been. But it's always a good sign just to know that those river otters are making a comeback. And we do have a bunch of terrestrial species as well to highlight the ecosystem health and really the damaging effects that climate change can have on ecosystems as well. So as we head down through the elevator here, I'm going to take my mask off so you guys can hear a little bit better. I'm the only one around me right now. We do have very strict mask policy at the aquarium since we are closed. There's no one allowed to be within about 20 feet of you if you do have your mask off at the aquarium. There's some moments like these tours where we do like to have our audio enhanced a little bit. So I'm going to have my mask off only when the people are not around. And we are still unfortunately closed to the public. We're hoping to find out in the next few days about San Francisco moving into the red tier. So at that point, we will let everyone know on our social media platforms and on our website, really as soon as we know more information about that. And here we are, as you all can see, the lights switching, and we are going to make our way down into the Sharks of Alcatraz tunnel. Now here we are in one of my favorite exhibits at the aquarium. This exhibit has 300 wild or make their way into these systems. This right here is one of the most common sharks found in the San Francisco Bay. This is a leopard shark. It's the most common shark in our aquarium as well. They are noted by the distinct color patterns similar to leopards, and each one of these is completely unique from the next. They may look very, very similar, but they are differentiated, and you can tell them apart based on specific markings of that fish and of that shark specifically. One of the other types of sharks that we have in this tunnel is the broad-nosed 7-gill shark. And I'm looking around for one of those right now. It is the largest shark that is native to the San Francisco Bay. And we have the opportunity here at the Aquarium of the Bay to get involved on a more intimate research level with this species. We actually have a permit with the state of California, Fish and Wildlife, and we are able to go out, tag these 7-gill sharks. Here's one lurking in the shadows behind me, behind the glass back there. I'm not sure if you can see him. We will get, oh, here's one as well. So we have special permission given to us by the state that enable us to go out and tag these sharks to collect biopsy samples of the organisms. And we do this because they're basically data deficient, which is a phrase that we use to describe a population in the wild. So the IUCN is the organization that characterizes most of the organisms in the wild, and they make those distinctions about whether these sharks or fish are critically endangered, all the way to vulnerable on one side or least concern on one side, and all the way to endangered or threatened or possibly extinct on the other side. So our job here as conservationists at the Aquarium of the Bay is, with our biologist team, we actually go out and take samples of these sharks. Sometimes we even bring them here to the aquarium, and we do release the ones that we bring in as well. And we provide that data to the IUCN with better hopes of understanding the ecological health of these organisms and the population as a whole in the San Francisco Bay. Now check out these gill slits. They're called 7-gill sharks because they're thought to have not evolved similar to the other sharks that have 5 gills that most of the shark populations and species have. These guys have 7 gills, and they're absolutely prehistoric examples of how little they evolved through time over hundreds of millions of years. Now, we also have a couple different species of fish in here. One is this striped bass. We also have a couple of different sea bass species as well. And we have one of my favorite fish. I'm actually from the East Coast, and we can find these in the East Coast as well. These are white sturgeon, another very prehistoric looking fish. These fish are used in the caviar industry specifically, and they actually have farms on the East Coast for that industry. One is near Moat Marine Lab, and absolutely beautiful fish with these sort of textures and different patterns. Really remarkable creature right here. They can grow to about 20 feet in the wild. They're pretty large fish overall. Now, you guys did have a homework assignment, if I'm not mistaken. You did have the ability to watch one of our favorite programs here at the aquarium called All the Way to the Ocean. And that's a really, really important video because it has some really amazing messaging about the importance of reducing our plastic pollution and our pollution as a whole, but specifically plastics. See, a lot of these fish are super subject to people that have polluted and plastic that are in the waters. We do filter our water here to filter out those bigger particles and those microplastics. But if you're polluting and letting your water bottles get into these waterways, these fish are subject to eating them. And that means when you eat these fish, you have the ability to eat that plastic as well and those microplastics. So it's super, super important to be mindful in all facets of life to reduce the amount of plastic use, whether that's eliminating plastic water bottles and using a reusable one, whether that's taking your own bags to the grocery store. COVID has made these times a little bit more difficult, especially to reuse and recycle, but still doing that as cleanly as you can and making sure those are responsible choices is extremely key. Another cool species that we have in here are California bat rays, which you might have seen. It's a species of stingray, which is an overarching sort of term that is used. And these specific bat rays are native to the California and the San Francisco Bay itself. And they look like they are saying hello to us. Very cute little creatures. We've actually had a few that have been born at the aquarium, and those little babies are behind the scenes as well. Now we're going to keep making our way through these tunnel exhibits here into our nearshore tunnel. The tunnel we just passed was the Sharks of Alcatraz tunnel, and it contains most of the fish that are larger and are found off of the coast of the San Francisco Bay and the Pacific Ocean, whereas this tank houses most of the smaller fish that are closer to shore, like this big skate, which is sort of a combination between a ray and a shark. Rays and sharks are related. They're called elasmobranchs. And this little big skate is demonstrating something called counter shading, which if you look up at the light, which is meant to sort of simulate the sun, is kind of white on the bottom and almost blends into that sun as it would be. And now when this guy comes a little bit lower, you'll be able to see on the backside, he is a completely different color. It's sort of a beige, sandy color. And he's got these giant like gray brown spots that make predators think it's a much larger animal than it actually is. One of these big skates is flying right over us right now. It's one of my favorite creatures in this nearshore tunnel. You guys might also notice the difference between the two tunnels in that we have some kelp in this tank. And unfortunately, this kelp is not real kelp. Kelp grows at about 1 foot per day. And that is just absolutely not sustainable for a local facility like ours to maintain. So we do utilize some fake kelp. These rockfish right here really don't know the difference, and they love to hang out on that kelp and use their modified pectoral and bottom fins there to just hang out on the kelp. One of the most common questions that we get is this fish okay? and they're normally just literally hanging out on the edge of the tank, sort of like this one is right here. And they enjoy, just like you and me, just a little bit of rest here and there. You know, life can get stressful. So just when you need to, take a time out and sit down and recharge. Our fish do that just as well. One of the cooler sharks that we have in this tunnel is called the Swell Shark. And these are smaller sharks than those leopards and the broad-nosed seven-gill sharks. These creatures are called swell sharks because they have the ability to intake water to swell their own bodies up to 2 to 3 times the size. And what that does is it's a modification that helps avoid predators. When a predator bites down on something that he thought was about, or she thought was about 2 to 3 times less than the size it actually is, that could be a little bit of a wake-up call for them and might be reason enough to spit it right out. And that's a really effective way of avoiding predators for the swell shark. You can also see the different coloration there. And that's another way that, similar to the big skate, these swell sharks use that counter shading to stay safe in the wild here. Another question that we get asked a lot is, why don't the sharks eat the other fish? Or why don't the fish eat the smaller fish? And we work really hard every single day with our team of biologists to feed these fish multiple times per week, depending on the size of the fish, so that that isn't anything that these fish think to do. We want them to be super full and healthy as much as possible so that they are not tempted to eat their neighbors. We feed these fish sustainable seafood. Anything that you might eat at Pier 39 that's sustainable, we would feed these fish as well. So that's anything from salmon to clam tongue to scallops to smelt, and really everything in between. Now you might be wondering, how many rockfish species are there? There's like 18 different colors, and there really are about 20 to 30 different rockfish species in this tank alone. There's over 30 to 40, I'm pretty sure, in the wild. They're one of the most diverse fish and broadly sort of recognized fish out here in the California coast. A really, really beautiful and vibrantly colored organism as well, as we make our way to the end of the nearshore tunnel. And I know I'm going a little bit fast, so if anyone has any questions, I want to make sure I get all the information that I can out to you guys. Just let me know if you want me to slow down or answer anything specifically. We are now approaching one of the largest fish we have in our care at the aquarium. These fish are giant sea bass. They can get all the way up to 500 pounds. Let me put my hand up here for comparison. This is an absolutely massive fish. And in the 60s and the 50s, these fish were almost fished to extinction. There were so little in the wild that the government had to make an adaptation to the rules to say these fish are not allowed to be fished. We need these populations to make a comeback. And that is super, super important. And thankfully they did that. They're doing much better now, still a protected fish, but these fish take such a long time to sexually mature. They have such a long lifespan as well. And we are so thankful to be able to house 2 of them here at the aquarium to showcase to you guys and allow you to see some of the most beautiful and really charismatic species that are in the wild here. These giant sea bass are one of my favorites at the aquarium just because of the sheer size alone. They do kind of come out of this sort of dock enclosure from time to time. It looks like right now they're just hanging out and enjoying the cool water that is in the tunnel. And that's another point that I like to sort of mention when describing the characteristics of these tanks. A lot of the fish that you'll see in these tanks are slower moving fish. They have a slowed down metabolism, and that really corresponds to the temperature of the water. Now, when you have tropical fish that are moving much faster and need to eat more to replace that energy, those fish are going to be moving around at such a higher rate than most of the fish in here. This water can get as cold as 45 degrees. It stays around 55 to 45 in that range, and is really, really crucial for those fish to kind of move slower and to conserve that energy as they move around. And that's another reason why those sharks in the other tunnel aren't as sort of you know, they don't want to eat their neighbors, and they don't feel like they need to be aggressive. One, because of their metabolic rate, and also because we do feed them as much as they like to get fed. That giant sea bass one more time. And we will now make our way to one of my favorite exhibits. When I'm having a hard day, which is very rarely at this job, or just want to relax a little bit, I love hanging out next to these sea jellies right here. These are Pacific sea nettles, one of the 5 species of jellies that we have here at the aquarium. Fun fact, they are properly referred to as sea jellies as opposed to jellyfish. They're invertebrates that actually can't swim very well at all. These pulsing movements you're seeing right now are actually the jellyfish trying to collect food with its tentacles. And as it's doing so, it's not actually able to move its body around. They're a type of sort of plankton, if you will, and plankton are defined by that inability to move on their own. They're completely subject to those ocean currents as well. Now, because of that, every aquarium that houses jellies has to have a circular enclosure with a constant flow. So this flow really keeps them from knocking into each other. And as you can see, these are quite large jellies, these Pacific sea nettles specifically. So we really need to make sure that current is effectively moving them around and allowing them to freely and without any obstacles in the way make those movements so that they can thrive. And these jellies eat something called brine shrimp, more commonly referred to as sea monkeys, you might know. And we actually grow those sea monkeys right here behind the scenes. And that's super important because we're able to sustainably feed these creatures without impacting populations in the wild. Now, these jellies are much more potent than some of the other species. This water is actually the same temperature as those other tanks. And actually, if you have a chance to scuba dive in the Monterey Bay, which is a very similar temperature to these tanks that we have here, about 55 to 50 degrees, you might see swarms of these jellies and be a little bit frightened, honestly. And that's why it's super important to have that surface layer of protection, whether it's a wetsuit or a dry suit, whatever your preference might be in that chillier water. And they can be absolutely so marvelous to see there in the wild, just swarms of these creatures as you're swimming through and scuba diving in the Monterey Bay. One of the other species of jellies we have here is the moon jelly. These creatures are really amazing because they're actually translucent. So they take whatever light is being reflected upon them, and that's what color they are. So if you see these in the wild, they won't necessarily be pink or purple like they are now. They will be completely transparent. And we had a couple of questions specifically about plastic pollution with these organisms that are subject to that, and the film all the way to the ocean. And we had a couple of amazing questions from Meredith and Nicholas, who had a chance to watch that video and let us know some of the questions that they were wondering about with the idea of plastic pollution. And they had a question about plastic water bottles and plastic bags and how to sort of do the best that they can to be really protective of these species. Look at how similar this might look to a sea turtle or an organism that likes jellyfish, and how similar these look to plastic bags. Plastic bags are some of the biggest sort of pollutants and negative objects in the water. And it's really, truly so important that we reduce our individual plastic sort of usage, whether that is plastic water bottles, whether that is plastic bags and taking them to the grocery store. We could not stress enough the importance of reducing your plastic footprint, if you will, at the Aquarium of the Bay. It's really truly a part of our mission to enable ocean conservation. And anytime we can avoid plastics, whether that's plastic water bottle, whether that's plastic bags, whether that's plastic packaging at the grocery store, straws are another super, super important thing to just avoid. You don't really want to be sort of getting involved with any of those things, and just limiting as much as you possibly can as a consumer to really help these species in the wild. Aquarium of the Bay is pretty proud actually to have been a key part of the banning of plastic straws from Pier 39. So we actually were able to get straws banned in hopes that it would aid this ocean conservation. And I'm just going to make a quick trip behind the scenes here to pop on a light of some of our other jelly species to show you guys as well. We do have 5 species of jellies. We've got moon jellies, Pacific sea nettles, as well as brown sea nettles, and lion mane jellies as well. Now, you might be wondering which animals are hurt the most because of plastic pollution, and that's a really great question. And it kind of varies depending on the animal and what it eats. So at the top, birds and sort of sea turtles are definitely the most subject to plastic pollution. And that is just because of the fact that they eat objects that are so similarly looking to these jellyfish and to other organisms that might be clear, and such as like different invertebrates or sea slugs and that type of thing. So birds and sea lions birds and sea turtles are easily the first to feel the impacts of plastic pollution because of what they eat. Now, sea lions, as well as other fish, are super, super subject to that as well. And in a little bit of a different way, because sea lions will swim freely throughout the water. They won't necessarily be looking for these jellies to eat, but they are super subject to the fact that plastic in the form of not only bottles and things that you might get at the grocery stores, but it also is in fishing line and fishing nets. So something called bycatch is a super important thing to understand, either when you're fishing on your own or you happen to see a piece of debris in the water. You know, bycatch is one of the biggest sort of problems for sea lions and other types of fish, because they swim through that and they don't know or are unable to get it off of their bodies. So in that way, mammals are the absolute second most, and fish as well, subject to the dangers of plastic pollution. Now, another great question from Nicholas and Meredith came about the trash angels that you might have seen in the video about All the Way to the Ocean. And I think the trash angels were really a form of showing and showcasing how fun it can be to become activists and get involved in the mitigation of these plastics and to clean up and, you know, eliminate them from whether it's your school or your house or your place of work, wherever that might be. So it's a little bit tougher nowadays, especially with the COVID restrictions, to schedule things like beach cleanups or public events that are, you know, cleanup centric, but you can still have fun with it nonetheless. Putting on that PPE and going out and picking up trash at your local park or your local school with a group of friends in a socially distanced way is a great way to minimize that plastic pollution that's around all of these ecosystems that will make its way to the ocean no matter what. Now, the ocean has more life than any ecosystem on Earth, so that's why it is so important to really make sure that, you know, you guys, as you grow up, are being activists and making sure that any plastic or trash that you see can be disposed of in a really safe and responsible way. Now, when we are out of COVID times, we will have beach cleanups with the aquarium. So we will be sort of, you know, looking out to the community to get involved in those cleanups as well. And we'd love to have you guys in on those cleanups to help make the San Francisco Bay and California and the United States and the world just a better place through these small local actions. 2 species that we have here that are critically endangered. One was that giant sea bass. Let's go take another look and see if he looks like he has decided to move a little bit around. And ooh, his younger tank mate here has decided to also move around a little bit. These were critically endangered. They're doing a lot better now. And we also have Western pond turtle species. And those are the main species here that are critically endangered. And we do have the opportunity to showcase and serve and care for as well. They eat a sort of larger fish called a mackerel. And that was one of the schooling fish in the other tank. And they're actually hand and target trained fish. So they'll come over and one of our divers will sit right around there and will sort of dangle this fish in front of the diver. And if the fish so chooses, it will come over and enjoy a nice piece of that fish. We never force any of our animals to eat. They're completely voluntarily fed. So when they are hungry, as I said, we do go down and dive these tanks multiple times a week. They will go ahead and eat as they would like to as well. Now, Noelle mentioned a little bit about how those sea otters down south, the southern sea otters, are an endangered species. Another endangered species here in the San Francisco Bay is the steelhead trout, the coho salmon, the California brown pelican, believe it or not, and again, that southern sea otter. So when you guys are making these choices at the grocery store, or whether or not to pick up a plastic water bottle or reuse a reusable water bottle, you know, those are the decisions that are super, super important with helping these species to continue to thrive in the wild, or to help these species that are endangered start to make a comeback, which is super, super important. You know, whether it's putting your trash in the trash cans or recycling or reusing plastic and glassware, making sure that your soaps are biodegradable and other products are environmentally friendly, and just the ability to use less. That's really what we want to stress as well here at the Aquarium in the Bay, is the importance of using less. And that will really, really help these animals continue to thrive in these ecosystems as well. I'm going to pause here because I'd love to answer any more questions that you guys might have. These jellyfish do eat sort of the sea monkeys, the brine shrimp, these microscopic little organisms. They are fed from the top, and those sort of percolate their way down and come through to the different different sections of the water column here for these jellies as well. They're fed about once a day. Super, super amazing creatures. We also do culture these jellies here at the aquarium. And what that means is jellies have polyps that are the way they reproduce. They sort of clone themselves, and we provide those conditions behind the scenes for those polyps to clone themselves. And it takes about a year for jellies to get into the Medusa phase, which is what you're seeing right now. And that is the last stage of their life cycle as well. And we do have a special activity at the end of this tour to have a call of action and have you guys sort of print out and color or draw sea lions and any other animals that you saw and post on social media. That's going to be really big as we continue to really strive to promote ocean conservation and climate action on a global and local scale. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. And at this point, if there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer those. We have a couple more messages as well as a video to share with you guys.
Do fish ever just sit down and sleep, or are they always moving?
That is such a good question. Different fish have different abilities to sit down and sleep. Let's go ahead back into this nearshore tunnel. So you might see rays or sharks or fish that are hanging out at the bottom. And you might like this, it looks like this is a sand wrasse down here. See right there, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but they do hang out and sleep at the bottom. And they're able to do that with these gills that they have. And as long as they're able to pass water through their gills and allow that oxygen transfer to happen, they're able to sleep and rest and hang out at the bottom of their exhibit and just regain that energy. One of the common myths about different types of sharks is that they have to stay swimming and they sleep swimming. And yeah, different animals need air, like mammals, to sort of continue respiring. But these fish just need their gills, and that's a really great way that they're able to just hang out at the bottom. And as long as they're continuing to open that mouth and pass water through those gills, they're able to continue to thrive as well. I think there was one more question about how jellyfish defend themselves. Super great question. They do have these tentacles, and as I was mentioning before, different jellies have different potencies. So these jellies right here are going to be way more potent in terms of stinging ability because of these larger defending tentacles that they have than compared to these moon jellies right here. And these are much smaller tentacles. They're a lot less potent. You will not be hurt too badly if you touch one of these. I'm not saying go touch them, but compared to those Pacific sea nettles, it will be less painful for sure. And now a common myth that the media has put out there in terms of TV and movies is, we really want to stress here at the aquarium, if you do get stung by a jellyfish, do not pee on it, or do not have someone else pee on it. That is a absolute complete myth. We do recommend just putting some warm water over that and allowing the wound, which isn't going to be too bad, to sort of reside with pain on its own. Please do not go out and urinate on your friends if they are stung by jellies. We do like to stress that. But some jellies, again, are more potent than others, so that hot water or warm water will be the best bet, with a little bit of soap as well. These are all so great, such great questions. Keep these up. We're super thrilled to be able to show these animals to you guys, especially while we're closed. I didn't get a chance to mention before that we are a nonprofit. So what that means is we don't receive any state or city funding or federal funding as well. So we rely almost completely on revenue from ticket sales alone to maintain these collections and care for these animals. Especially while we're closed, it's really amazing to have you guys here for this virtual tour. There are other ways that you can support us. We do have social media platforms. You may have gotten to this tour from them, but if not, we are on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Aquarium of the Bay, or at Aquarium O the Bay on Twitter. We also have a link tree that's linktr.ee/AOTB. So if you find the Aquarium of the Bay link tree, that has all of our current promotions and expeditions and different programs going on right now as well. And we are still selling those face masks. You might have had a chance to see Noelle with the River Otter face mask. There are 5 different types of created face masks available. Just head to our website, bayecotarium.org/FM, to find those masks as well. It's another great way to support us as a nonprofit and allow us to continue this mission of, ocean conservation and climate action on a local and global scale. Additionally, we had the opportunity this past year to release a podcast called Beyond the Pier. So if you guys are washing dishes or if you have a long commute ahead of you, definitely recommend checking us out on Spotify at Aquarium of the Bay. Check out Beyond the Pier on Spotify, which is our podcast. We were able to release about 9 episodes so far. Each episode features a biologist at the aquarium or from the industry, and is about 45 minutes long and talks a little bit more about these specific species and the way that we care for them as well. So just by being here today, you are supporting us in our mission, and we couldn't be more appreciative of you all for joining us today. If you don't get a chance to ask your questions here, you're always welcome to, again, email that sankofadays@bay.org. And these jellies, it looks like we did get another question about whether or not they're in groups or, what we call swarms or individuals. And they can really differ sort of depending on the ocean current. Again, these creatures can't swim by themselves. So in the aquarium setting, they're completely reliant on that tank flow. And in the wild, you might find that because a certain current might have taken a few individuals as opposed to a swarm, then that might be the reasoning that only a few are in a particular area as opposed to a whole bunch. If there are no other questions, we do have a couple more messages and a final video, as well as a call to action to share with you guys. So Angelique, whenever you are ready, I will let you take it away. Just make sure, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, great. So I'm so glad to have everyone here with us today. And some of us came into the program a little bit after we had a start, and my conspirator in this project, we do some great work together with bay.org, Kay Carney Fillmore. She started out at the beginning sharing information with us, and some of you may not have heard that information. I don't know if Kay, if there's some thoughts you want to give again about some of those earlier welcome comments that you made, so people are sure who the partnership is and how we came to be able to bring this to the community today.
Sure, happy to. Welcome everyone. Again, I won't go into the full intro that I did previously, but I would like to share with you that, again, we're very happy to bring this program to you virtually. We have done SANKOFA at the Bay 2 years previously, 2 years prior, excuse me, in person, and to be able to bring this to you once again, but in a virtual platform is very exciting. And, you know, kudos and hats off to Naturalist Hunter, who I think has done a fantastic job of giving you a tour through the aquarium. We do this in partnership with the NorCal MLK Foundation, who has been a wonderful partner, and we celebrate, you know, Black environmentalism. We celebrate Black history during this time, and there's a lot of information that's out there about Black naturalists and such who really are making a big contribution and have made big contributions to our environment. So again, happy that you're able to join us. And I know that there's a few more things that are going to be happening. I think a video to be shown. But again, thank you to the aquarium. Thank you to NorCal MLK Foundation. Oh, and how can I forget the San Francisco chapter of the Lynx Incorporated, of which Angelique and I are both members. And as she said, we are partners in crime. We're on a variety of programming to bring to you. Our service area actually is the San Francisco area. We've been serving members of the African diaspora. And we have been doing so for 70 years now, 70 years strong. And we continue to move forward with our programming and support the African American community in the African diaspora. So again, thank you once again, and thank you. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Kay. So I'll give us some closing thoughts here to wrap us up. You know, I do want to acknowledge all of those that provided questions for us. This is a great way for us to engage as a community, and specifically to our young participants today, Meredith and Nicholas Jones. Thank you so much for your insightful questions, and I'm sure Naturalist Hunter had a great time providing answers to you for those. So let's see where we're going from here. I am going to then again give you thanks for the participation and welcome you to our team as eco ambassadors. Again, thanks to the Aquarium, NorCal MLK Foundation, and the San Francisco Lynx. Please visit our website again at www.aquariumofthebay.org/SANKOFA Days for more SANKOFA Days learning activities. Learn to weave the kente cloth, its colors and meanings, and the meaning of adinkra symbols from the peoples of Ghana. Or explore more about how trash and the Earth's climate are related, and visit with our two young friends from the video all the way to the ocean to understand the importance of environmental stewardship. Learn about other local organizations like Literacy for Environmental Justice and Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice that mobilize our communities to bring about change. And the Eco Center at Heron's Head Park, an environmental education community center in Bayview Hunters Point, designed to educate public about renewable energy, pollution and greenhouse gas reduction, wastewater treatment, sustainable building materials, rainwater harvesting, and the green economy. Remember, the SANKOFA symbol and its meaning. Know your past to understand your future. The protection and sustainability of our environment is critical, now more than ever. And we can learn from past challenges to help forge a better and stronger environment for tomorrow. As we celebrate Black History Month, we leave you acknowledging the contributions of the peoples of the African diaspora and celebrate our Black environmental champions.
All right, thank you, everyone. And as we say goodbye to you all today, we do want to mention one really amazing opportunity for you all as a call to action. So on your screen right now, you'll see a couple of instructions and a couple of hashtags as well. These 4 hashtags are super integral when posting on social media to unify a community or group and spread awareness and make people aware of really the amazing things, not only that you guys are now being a part of as ocean conservation and climate activists and ambassadors, but also just environmental stewards as well. So, like I mentioned before, with sea lions and their plight of, being subject to these plastics and bycatch and other environmental harmful characteristics, we'd love for you guys to get involved and spread the word on social media. So if you guys can check out this link, aquariumofthebay.org/coloring-book, you can download some California sea lion coloring pages. And if you'd like to test your drawing skills or, color in a drawing of your own as well, feel free to draw anything or any animal that you saw today in the tour or that we talked about. And then at that point, if you guys can post those to your favorite social media platform, give us a tag at Aquarium of the Bay or Aquarium of the Bay, depending on the platform. Just on Twitter, it's without the F. So just tag Aquarium of the Bay and hashtag those 4 hashtags right there. And in that way, we will all be sort of unified as a community on that platform. People will see it, they'll wonder what's going on, and they'll be able to learn not only from your posts, but from all these amazing organizations that are coming together to really do all of our parts in making the world a better place to live and just making the bad, pollution as little as possible. It's going to be a continued effort, especially as we move forward with a new administration and we see prosperity in environmental stewardship continue. So just keep up those efforts and give the coloring books a visit and draw a picture if you'd like. Give us a hashtag and give us a tag, and we'd love to see you guys take what you learned and post it on social media. Just a great way to spread the word and allow others to get involved as well. And with that, again, as a naturalist, Hunter, I just want to extend my absolute thanks and gratitude to you all for joining us today. It's not every day that we're able to have an amazing audience like that, that like you guys that are so full of these amazing questions and energies, and especially as we celebrate Black History Month and SANKOFA Days at the Bay. It's super special to us at the Aquarium of the Bay to bring this content to you and to collaborate with the San Francisco chapter of Lynx and NorCal and all of these supporters as well. So we want to give a special shout out to Angelique and Kay, 2 of our amazing board members that we really could not have put this event on without. Thank you both so much for your support and help and contributions with all this. And again, my name is Hunter, and from the Aquarium of the Bay, we really do appreciate you guys for joining us today. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to either follow us on social media and ask those in the comments section or send an email to sankofadays@bay.org. And with that said, I will hopefully see you all when we are able to reopen again to the public. Check our social platforms and our website for notified information on that as it becomes available. Fingers crossed in the next few weeks. With that, I'll hand it back over to Angelique and say goodbye to you all. It was so amazing to be with you guys today. Happy Black History Month. Such a special opportunity for us to be involved in, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Well, thank you so much, Hunter. We really enjoyed today's session. And at this time, we again thank all of you for your attendance. Have a wonderful celebration for the rest of Black History Month. And as you're aware, Black history is not something that just occurs in the month of February. We love celebrating it each and every day. So with that, to everyone, have a good day and a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.